What's up, guys? So this is my MADOLCHE build, and look, I think this deck is really good this format. Yeah, just a lot of little things make it an effective deck to play. However, it is still MADOLCHE, so it has some disadvantages, but the Vernus lifts have made this deck way better than it was in the last few formats. So to start off with, MADOLCHE ratios, nothing too different. So we play 1 Pudding, 2 Messenger. These are your bricks, I'd say your hardest bricks. Pudding, you just do it to raise the ceiling of your deck a bit. That's essentially why it's needed. You can play without it. You can replace her with Ticket, for example. You can just play a more mid-range and just completely get rid of her and completely get rid of Solana and just focus on promenades. Both are viable. I just do like the fact that Pudding does have several very OP OTK routes, which is quite nice. And then Messenger, yeah, you have to play him as well, the once per turn search. Unfortunately, taking him down to 1 is practically impossible. It just doesn't work with this deck. 2 Petting. So Petting is less good than before, and the main disadvantage of Petting is because of the issues and such, and because even the Vernus loss that you play, a lot of the time Petting is not going to be live for her hand effect, so you still need to play her so you can shoot her out with Angeli, but because of that we can go down to 2. It's not as important as before. But now Angeli is really good. Angeli is your best starter, and she can be searched out with the Vernalizer Fairies. Verna Sylph of the Misting Seedlings. What kind of stupid name is that? But anyway, because she can be searched out by that card, it makes her really good, I think. So yeah, we definitely do like Angeli. Play out 3. Then we've got the 3 Vernalizer of the Flourishing Kill. So this card is great as well because obviously she is going to search out your Seedlings and Haze. Now the thing about these cards is they are 2-card combos, but they're 2-card combos with a lot of upside because obviously, for example, if for example you open a hand like Hoot Cake plus this will discard the Hoot Cake, summon out the Hoot Cake, search out an Angeli, and now your Hoot Cake can do your Messenger Lato play so that you have a Promenade live, and then you normal summon Angeli, and now even if you get interrupted you have a live Promenade and follow up for the next turn because Promenade does get you that follow up. So yeah, really good. It just has so much synergy, and this is why we play 3 Hoot Cake now, because you are going to be putting cards in the graveyard a lot more than before. And before, one of the big weaknesses of MADOLCHE, I don't know what's happening today with my speaking, but one of the big weaknesses of MADOLCHE before is that they really struggled having anything in the graveyard. Playing hand traps in MADOLCHE wasn't even that good. But now it's not as bad because you're not as reliant on that Petting Cecil. And so because of that, Hoot Cake becomes a lot good, and we definitely want to see him at 3. And because of that, I think Herald is a lot better in MADOLCHE as well now. Herald, the add back for Herald is OP. Herald is just a good card in general. I did try playing the Ishizu cards in this. I just don't think they're that good. I think the disadvantage with the Ishizu cards, they fundamentally don't do anything. If I was playing pure Vernalizer or something, the Ishizu cards would be better. But in MADOLCHE, you can't do anything with monsters that aren't MADOLCHE monsters. And so because of that, it's just not really useful to have. You need to minimize stuff that isn't MADOLCHE's. The only reason why we even play Fenrir is because he's OP. It's because he can out threats by himself and because he doesn't need the extra deck. Like, by himself, he's a good monster. But for example, even these sometimes when you're searching out your Angeli, so some hands, for example, you might open this and this, you might open this and this. You're going to use her to discard this, and then now you have to summon a useless Flourishing Hills, and she's on the board and she doesn't do anything. And then this is going to search out your MADOLCHE, and you now can play. But I mean, you've got 2 monsters that can't really do much in MADOLCHE. You just don't have room to do much stuff in the extra deck. That's not MADOLCHE, but still worth playing. But yeah, we play 3 Herald because she's a lot better now. And then 2 Veiler. Veiler just outs a lot of threats. You don't have to play Veiler, but I do like Veiler just because it's kind of generically good against a lot of different decks. I don't like hand traps at the moment, but another advantage of Veiler is it's not once per turn, and MADOLCHE can add her back to the hand. And so that's what's nice about these 2. You can get some really oppressive locks by continually looping these back to your hands. 3 talents because in this, so talents in MADOLCHE I thought was bad before, and this is because in MADOLCHE you have a choke point. Petting essentially is your choke. Petting / chocolate is your choke point. And so talents I thought was useless because it's like, if you get stopped there, you're losing anyway. It doesn't matter what your other cards are. However, now, because of the Vernus Sylphs, you can extend past that. MADOLCHE doesn't have as many choke points, and so talents does become useful sometimes for the draw, sometimes to look in the hand and spin stuff back. I do think it has validity, and the card by itself is very good this format. Then we've got the Pot of Prosperity. So Pot of Prosperity is just, yeah, you need it MADOLCHE. As you can see, I have removed Small World. I think Small World is an okay card, but it has 2 problems. Firstly, it forces you to play bricks. Now, Fenrir is a good bridge, but even with that, I don't want to have to play Small World, and so I like just being able to get rid of it. And then also, like I said, you have the Vernus Sylphs and stuff, and that allows you to play around Then we've got our Call by the Grave because you need it. Ash is still a killer for this deck. And then our MADOLCHE spells and traps. So Salon. So here's the thing. If you're playing one Promenade, you don't need Salon. If you're playing one Promenade, you never need Salon and just get rid of it. Either play Ticket or just get rid of it. If you're playing two Promenades, Salon becomes very useful because the idea is that every time you Promenade, you set another Promenade. And then your turn, you shuffle Promenade back and then set what you get. So if you're playing two Promenade, you play Salon. If you're not playing two Promenade, just play one. I still think 2 is worth it. I think this deck has very good mid-range capabilities because of the Vernisils, and because of that, I get into grind games a lot, and having that continuous advantage from Salon is really useful, and having those 2 Promenades is really nice. But I can definitely see an argument for playing just one, and Chateau. Chateau is really great in this format, and this is using format for putting your cards back. This is one of the few decks that it's very hard to deck them out, because as Tier is shuffling cards and putting cards in your graveyard, you don't suffer from that, and if they shuffle cards back, it will trigger your MADOLCHE cards a lot of the time. So for example, if they shuffle your MADOLCHE monsters back into your deck while Salon's on the board, as you can see, Salon will trigger and it will set something, which has happened several times where they're trying to dodge out my Tiramisu effect or something, but then they shuffle something back and I get a card anyway, which is really, really nice. Moving on to the extra deck, there's not really much room for variation, unfortunately, because petting does lock you in this deck. So, like I said, 2 Sister, 3 Souffle, 3 Tiramisu, and 2 Chocolate. So, like, yeah, you can't really do much about it. In terms of the extra monster, I do have Baguska, Dweller. They're just good cards. I don't think I ever made this. So I played this at 2 tournaments now. I don't think I've made either of these in any games. You've got Luster Soldier, just as kind of generic out. I only play this because I play Fenrir, and so I can make him. But again, never came up. Also out Contact C. That's why you play it. You've got the space. And if someone makes Contact C against the deck, it's very, very difficult to play. If they're smart, they'll wait until you use Petting Cecil to make Contact C. But if they're not and they just summon it very early on, you make Ursa and then you're fine. And then Zeus. Zeus does come up quite a bit in this deck because occasionally you just can wipe the board, and MADOLCHE does retain resources very, very well. So you wipe the board and then you full combo and it's hard for them to play. Then extra deck. So 3 Lava Golem, you don't need your normal summon that much in this deck because this deck is just so good at playing with the Vernisils now. Shifter is really, really good. However, I don't think it's worth main decking because not every deck. You've got 2 decks in the format, Ishizu Tier and things that play Shifter. Those are the 2 decks. And so if you main deck Shifter, you're going to come up against Flunder players and stuff and have a card that doesn't do anything. So I only put it in after game 1 when I know what my opponent's playing. And also because it requires slightly different play. So for example, if I'm putting in Shifter, I'm going to swap out 3 Ishizus for the Shifter because I'm going to swap out 3 Vernalizers for the Shifter because Shifter's nowhere near as good with these cards because they don't let you start. Cyclone Evening for background, then Gozen. Gozen's just a good card. It's very good against Sprite, and this deck does play it very, very effectively. So guys, that is MADOLCHE's. Definitely a really good deck this format. I'm going to have more MADOLCHE gameplay and builds coming out because I think there's so much potential. But yeah, I'll talk to you all soon. Peace.